Tav Pei Dalet Amid Aleph will begin Pei Gimel Amid Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. Tanan, Anshe Chalzer Vansher Mirpeses. We learned earlier that if you have a Chalzer with a wall between them, there's people on each side, Chalzer on each side of the wall with a Pesach between them. If they want to be Marav Me'echad, they can join together in Erev, or they can be Marav separately. If they're Marav separately, then the top of the wall, if it's accessible to both parties, equally accessible, then it's also to both parties. Similarly, if you have Anshe Chatzer, people living below and people living on top, the Chatzer is accessible to both. They have a right of way, and they all have a right of way. What is more accessible to one party, they have the use of it. What is more accessible to the other party, they have the use of it. What is equally accessible, then there's Shnei Masurim. It's not attributable to one more than the other. If you have a mound that's in the Chatzer, and the mound, as Rashi explained, it has to be at least Dalet al Dalet, because otherwise it's a Malkam Patur, and the use would be Mutter. But if the mound is Dalet al Dalet or more, so it's its own area. So where is it allocated to? So if it's 10 high and it's lower than 10 from the upper level, it's considered for the lower level of Pesach. It's more accessible. They have the use of it, not the bottom level. If it's within 10 of the ground, but the distance lower, it's more than 10 of it below, then it belongs to the ground level and not to the top level. Now we're talking where this mound is within Dalet Tvachim of, let's say there's a window here, and it's not pulled away, because if it's pulled away more than Dalet Tvachim, you have another difficulty with it. In addition to the height, it's the lateral distance, which makes it difficult to use. If the window is here, then it's difficult to access this mound this way. Now, what happens if you have in one area is Beshilshul or Zebezrika? They're both difficult. One, it's 10 high from the lower level. So they have the difficulty that they, in order to use it, would have to throw things on top. For people who live up here, their difficulty is that they have to lower it down, and it's more than 10. There's a distance of more than 10. So for both of them, it's difficult. Do we look at it and analyze the relative difficulties, or do we say they're both difficult, so it does not attribute to one more than the other, and they're both asurim? That's what Rav says. Shmuel says no. It's more difficult for the people below to throw it. It's more difficult for them than for the people to shilshul, to be lowering it down. Therefore, the use is for the upper level, not the lower level. So now the Gemara is going to try to bring a raya to Shmuel's din. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Anshe Chatzer Vanshe Mirpeses Sheshachu V'lo Yervu. They weren't ma'arev together. They did not join together the lower level and the upper level. Kol Shegavayasar Tvach Mirpeses. If this is 10 high from the ground, then it's to the use, and it's within 10 of the Mirpeses. It's for the Anshe Mirpeses. But if it's lower than 10, it belongs to the people in the Chatzer. How means what's Mirpeses? B'nei Aliyah. It means for the people who live here. Right, so they live in this level. They have this window over here. They live over here. They have the window here. They have to use a ladder to climb down, to get down to the Mirpeses. They have a ladder from their window or from the door over here, from the door over there. And it's really the people who live up here. V'may karla Mirpeses. Why is it called Mirpeses if they really live here? They don't live on the Mirpeses. Is because they come down because this kasalke b'Mirpeses, because they go down to the Mirpeses when they want to go, or they want to go up to their dira. They climb up the mirpases, and from the mirpases they come into their dira. So why is it called mirpases? Because the kasal mirpases, they go up through the mirpases to get to their dira, to their apartment. But the havmin is they're really b'nei Ela, they live here. Now, so that means that if you have the post or the pillar that's down here, it is now difficult for them, to access it because they are 10 high. So it's difficult for both parties. It's difficult for the people living below. It's difficult for the people living above because it's 10 high from the ground, but it's also more than 10 below where they are on top. It's more than 10 below. So isn't this the case that Rav and Shmuel are arguing about, that lezeb is rika, they have to throw it up to get to the top of the pillar, which is 10 high, and they have to lower down. So it's difficult for both. And yet the Mishnah says, Alma, it says, the Mishnah says that it belongs to the Kol Shegavoya Asara, it's Lemerpases. It belongs to the people in the Merpases. Alma Kol Lezebeshilshul, Zebezrika, Nice Lezebeshilshul. Doesn't that show you that if it's difficult for both of them, it's higher than 10 from the ground for the people living below? There is lower than 10 for the people above. They have to lower it down, and yet we attribute it to the people on top. So doesn't that show you, like Shmuel's halacha, that even though they're both difficult, but the relative difficulty is more for the bottom people, and therefore we attribute it to the people in the Aliyah? The Gemara says, no, it's not a rai over here, because Gadam Ravuna Loisan Adarim Bimir passes. Achaname Loisan Darim Bimir passes. We don't mean the people living on the top level. What we mean over here is that we're talking in a case where it's not the people living in an aliyah. We're dealing over here with where it opens directly onto the merpasses. So therefore, they're not up here. They have direct access to the merpasses, and therefore the mound that's in question is not more than 10. The mound that's in question, if this mound is up here, it's not more than 10. It's within 10. So therefore, the case is talking where it's really that for the people on top, it's not b'shilshul. It's considered for them to be a Pesach. Since the mound in question is not more than 10, they have a Pesach. There it's considered to be a Pesach. And for the people on the bottom, it's considered to be a Zrika. So it's not Lezeb Zrika or Zeb Shilshul. It's Lezeb Zrika and Lezeb Pesach. Because the distance is it's not more lower than 10 below, it's within 10 of where they can lower it. So for them it's easy. For the other ones it's difficult. If the mound is less than 10, it belongs to the chotzer, the people in the chotzer. Well, if you're telling me that it's within 10 of the top, that it's within 10 of the people who are living on top, and if even the mound is lower than 10 from the ground, well, then it's equally accessible to both of them. So if that's the case, why does it says Pachas Mikan, if the mound is lower than 10, it's to the Chatzar? If you're telling me the case is that for the people on top, it's for B'nai Mirpaseh, it's within 10 of them. They don't have to lower it more than 10. It's within 10 of there. And even if the mound is low and it's lower than 10, so it's equally accessible to the people below as to the people above. Why should it be attributable to the people below? Why should they have the use of it? The more answer is no. You misunderstood. When it says Pachas Mikan L'Chatzer, it doesn't mean it's exclusively to the chotzer and they can have the use of it. No, means my l'chotzer af l'chotzer shnei masurim. It means it also belongs to the people in the chotzer, and shnei masurim, they're both also. It's not more to one than the other. In this case, in the previous case, then it's accessible to the people on top. It's within 10 of them, and not to the people below. So the people on top, the people who are Pesach, have the use of it. But if it's less than 10 from the ground, it's equally accessible, and therefore neither of them have the use of it. Gemara says, and it's mistaber to say that that's the case with Miktana Seif, and we learned in the Seif of a man Dvar Mamurim, Besmucha, Aval Memufleges, Afil Gavayu Tvachim Lachotzer. It says, what are we talking over here? Is when the mound, as we said, it's within Daled Tvachim of the upper level. But if it's pulled away from the upper level, and it's more than Daled Tvachim away, so then we say, even if it's 10 tvachim high, it belongs to the people in the chotzer. Now, if it's within dalet tvachim of the people on top, therefore, since it's not it's not lower than yud tvachim, and it's not pulled away laterally, it's not moved away from them more than dalet tvachim, it's considered to be that it's easy to use, it has ease of access. But if it's pulled away more from the merpasas, more than dalet, if the mound is pulled away from the merpasas more than dalet, so even if it's not that low, but it's pulled away far away laterally, it's difficult to use it. So even if the depth is not 10, it's not more than 10 below it. But if it's dalet tvachim pulled away from it, it's still difficult to use. And therefore, where do we say if the mound is 10? So it's difficult for the people below because it's high up. They have to use a bezrika. There we say it belongs to the people on top. But that's only if for the people on top it's within 10, but it's close to them, it's not pulled away laterally. But if it's moved away from them more than dalet tvachim, it's difficult for them as well. So we say if it's mufleges, then afil gavoy yud, it's lachatzer. My lachatzer, what does it mean lachatzer? Ilem lachatzer v'shari. Do you mean to say that it belongs to the people in the chatzer and it's exclusively to the people of Chotzer, and it's mutter for them? It's also with the bnei merpasas, but it's mutter for them. How could that be? Amai rishus u'deravayu. It should be equal to both of them, meaning it's equally difficult. It's difficult for the people on the bottom because since it's 10 high, they can only use it al yedei zrika. So it's difficult for them, and it's difficult for the people on top. So why should it belong to the people below? Why should it belong to the bnei hachotzer? It should be equally difficult for both of them, and therefore neither of them can have the use of it. So therefore, you must say elamai lachatzer. When it says lachatzer, it means av lachatzer shnei asurim. It means when it says lachatzer, the interpretation of lachatzer means it must be av lachatzer, also to the chatzer, and they're both also. Achanami mai lachatzer av lachatzer shnei asurim. So here also it must mean the same thing. When it says lachatzer, it doesn't mean that it's only for the chatzer. It means also for the chatzer. It means also for the chatzer and Shnei Masurim. So in the previous case, it's as we said, the Bnei Merpasas doesn't mean the Bnei Aliyah. It doesn't mean the people living on top. It means for Bnei Merpasas. And if it's within 10 of the Merpasas. So if it's within 10 of the Merpasas, and therefore it's for them, it's a Pesach, and it's not talking about Shilshul, it's talking Pesach, and for them it's mutter, because it's mutter for them because they can use it easily. It's within 10. And for the people below, it's also because they can only use it al yedei zrika. So therefore, it's not discussing the case of the machlokes Rav and Shmuel by lazeh b'zrika zeh b'shilshul. Now, if the mound is lower than 10 from the ground, so it's equal to both of them. And therefore, shneim asurim. It's not only to the chotzer, it's shneim asurim. If it's pulled away, even if it's higher than 10, then we say, if it's pulled away, it's higher than 10, we say, it says l'bnei chatzer, which we're saying means not only for the bnei chatzer, because it's difficult for both of them. It means it's af l'chatzer and shnei masurim. That's what it means over here. Shema mina. Fragt Rabbi Akiva Eiger, l'chayr it's schwer, because what are we saying over here? We're saying over here that if we say if it's gavaya sorum, then we say if it belongs, normally we'd say it would belong to the people upstairs. But if it's mufleges, if it's pulled away, then it's difficult for the people upstairs as well. Now, as Rashi points out, that even if we're going to say that the people on the upstairs, even if it's for the Bnei Aliyah, it's for the people, and it's difficult for them because it's also 10. But over here, why should it belong to the people downstairs? It's difficult for the people downstairs. It's difficult for the people upstairs. Now, the people in the upstairs, Rashi says, the fact that they have to lower it and also pull it laterally, pull it away this way, Rashi says that's equal to having to throw it on top. So the Mishnah says that if it's muflages, it says that if it's pulled away, that if it's muflages, it's l'chatzer. Why should it belong to the Chotzer? The Gemara's Raya is saying, why should it belong to the Chotzer? For the Chotzer, it's difficult because they have to throw it. For the people on top, and they have to also lower it and pull it laterally. So it shouldn't belong to the people on the Chotzer. It should be equally difficult and be aser to both of them. So therefore, the Gemara brings the Raya, my l'chotzer, af l'chotzer, shnei masurim, shema mina. That's the raya that we say when it says af l'chaser. It says l'chaser. It doesn't mean only to the chaser, exclusive to the chaser. It means it belongs also to the chaser, and they're both aser. But Rabbi Akiva Eiger, that's good according to Rashi rather, that says lowering it and throwing it laterally are equal to throwing it on top. The difficulty is the same. But Taisus is saying, Taisus is mashman, the Taisus is board, that it's not that way. That lowering it, throwing it laterally, is not equal to having to throw it on top, throwing it from the bottom and throwing on top. Well, if that's the case, the people on the bottom have one difficulty, they have to throw it. The people on the top, they have two difficulties, they have to lower it and throw it laterally. Now, if that's more difficult than the people on the bottom who just have to throw it, we can understand when it says l'chatzer, it means exclusively to the chatzer, not af l'chatzer, or kiver blives sorach iyon. Tanan, let's try to bring it right from the following part of the Mishnah. Chuli sabor v'asela, if you have the embankment of a bore, of a pit, or a rock, Shem Gavoim Asur Merpasses. If they're 10 high, they belong to the people on the Merpasses upstairs. Because the people on the bottom they have difficulty using it, they have to throw it. But if it's less than 10 from the ground, it belongs to the people. So what do we see over here? We're assuming that what it means, the Merpasses, it means that it's people, like we said before, it means the people that are living on the upper level. And therefore you see that if it's 10 high, it belongs to the merpasses, and therefore even though there's a distance between where they are and the mound, and therefore that's also difficult, don't you see a raya to Shmuel that l'zebes shilshul, l'zebes rika, it belongs to the one l'shilshul? We're assuming, like we did before, right from the beginning, that when it says that it's merpasses, it means the bnei aliyah, and we're talking about the people who live on the second story, where it's also difficult for them. There's also a difference of more than 10 tvachim, and yet we attribute it to them. It must be because l'zebes rika, l'zebes shilshul, you give it to the one who in the shilshul. Amar Rav Huna, like we said before, lo yisan adam b'merpasses, it doesn't mean to the bnei aliyah, it means for the people who live in the merpasses, so it's within 10 tvachim of their merpasses, and it's l'zebes pesach or l'zebes rika. Teinach sela bor Michael Meimer. Well, let's find by the rock. The rock is like a mound, so therefore we have the same scenario about the bottom people have to throw it up and the people on top lower it. And you can say that when it says it's mirpases, it's b'nei mirpases, and it's within 10 of them. But what are you going to say about the bore? Now, bore is a pit. It's deep. So in any event, they're going to have to lower it more than 10. Now, isn't that a case where the people on the Chatzer, in order for them to use the bore, they have to throw it over the embankment and into the bore, or raise it and bring it up over the embankment? So that for them it's a case of zrika. The people who live on top, they just have to lower it and raise it from the bore. So isn't that a case, clearly a case of lezel shilshul lezeb zrika? And we would say that if it's not 10 deep, then if there's not a discrepancy of 10, then it's attributable to the people on top. So isn't that the case over here? So he says no. We're talking about that it's full with water. Therefore, the people who live on top, the people who live on the merpeses, they don't have to lower it because it's within 10 tefachim. Because we're not talking about a deep bore, it's on the surface, so therefore it's within 10. Well, inevitably, you're using the bore, even if it's filled with water, it's going to be depleted, and therefore the level will be lowered, and it will be more than 10. So therefore, don't you have a case of zebazrika and lezeh b'shilshul? Isn't that the case we're talking about? The Gemara says no. At some point in time, there will be a distance of more than 10, but since it starts out where it's not 10, so therefore we are matir, we allow it, we permit it, even if the water level does come below 10, even if it is lowered. For the people on the Chatzer, they have to throw it, and they have to throw it 10. It's difficult for them. For the people who live on top, then even though eventually the water level will be lowered and it'll be 10, but since it starts off not being 10, we permit it even after it becomes depleted. Just the opposite. Why don't you say the opposite? Since ultimately the level will be lowered and it should be also kimal yanami also, it should be also even when it's full. Ella Amar Abaye says we're talking about, well, it's full of fruit. And therefore, it's not lower down, it's at the ground level, it's filled up with fruit. And therefore, they don't have to lower it. The people on top and the merpeses don't have to lower it 10. But it'll be depleted. So we have the same scenario. More says, but tivla. No, what we're talking about here is tevel. They can't use it on Shabbos, you can't eat it on Shabbos. It's tevel. And therefore, it's even muksa, and it can't be removed from there. Therefore, it's like a filled like ground level. And therefore, for the people on the merpeses, it's not lower than 10, and they can use it. They can and it's mistaber to say that because the Mishnah brings the two cases, the rock and the bore. So just like a rock is something which doesn't move, it's stationary, here also we're talking about something where the bore, where it's filled and it's not going to be moved. And in both cases, we're talking about something which is muksa. So we're talking about it's filled with pears which are tevel. Where aren't these really the same cases? Bishlam, if you told me that the bore was deep, you'd be telling me a chiddush. You'd be telling me a chiddush is shilshul zabazrika. But if you're telling me that the bore is filled with tevel, so essentially it's like the same case as the rock. Why tell me both cases? Versus stricha diashmin and sell the lekla migza. If you told me by the sella, then there's no reason to be geyser, and therefore that's why it's mutter. Avabora ligzer zim demal peres musukanim. But by the bore, I perhaps would have thought that if I allow it a case where it's filled with pears which are tevel, you'll come to use it in a case even where it's not tevel. So Kamash Malan, it tells me the case of the bore, that if it's filled with pears which are tevel, it is mutter and we're not geyser sricham.